Hi there, my name's Vince from mymatevince.com, and in this video today it's another trying to fix video, and this is one of the Xbox One controllers. So the series I'm doing of these, I bought 6 of them and they're working out at £11.66 each. Now the first one I pulled out was a complete nightmare, in my opinion it was anyway. And I think really it had 2 junk boards put together, so that's why I've gone straight on to the second one. Really normally I like to mix around a little bit and I like to do other fixes, otherwise I get a bit bored, but I'm really intrigued to see whether this whole box is just going to be a box of junk or whether it is actually going to be real faults, like for example an analog stick that doesn't work or a trigger that doesn't work. So let's put out the next one and see what we get. Also, I've turned my TV upside down, so that's the monitor that I'm using when I connect up the camera to it. It's not connected up just at the moment, but I don't know if you remember in the last video, but I had real trouble doing everything, you know, left to right, right to... It was all very confusing. What I did down here did not match what I was doing on screen. Not quite sure why, but somebody said flip the TV upside down, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. There's no vents or anything on the top of it, so I'm hoping it's going to be okay. Right, let's go in here. Now, I'm not going to pull out the next one. I'm going to go deep. Now, I haven't looked at any of these, so I don't... Oh, here we go. There's one not in its cover here. Let's pull out this one. Oh, I don't believe it. What do you see there? Oh, what a surprise. A micro USB port broken. I wonder if the tracks are missing on this one. Let me just have a quick look. Have I got the energy to do another one of these after I've just done it? In all honesty with you, no I haven't, but it does look like there is the remains of the tracks up top. Maybe I should do this one. Should I do this one or should I do another one? Warranty void if removed, so it looks like it was this looks like it was a second-hand controller to begin with. Oh, should I do that one? I'm really undecided. Would it be boring for viewers to see another USB port? Do you know what? Look, I pulled it out. Let this one be part 2 because I might pull out another one that's going to be even worse. Let's do this one. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to make the mistake this time. I'm going to connect this straight up to my little laptop down here and I'm going to see what exactly is working or not on it, so I know beforehand what the faults are. Now, there's no point in me filming that because I showed you the one I did before, you know, the app that I use. So I'm just going to show you the results once I know exactly what's wrong with this controller. Right, okay. It's been about 1 minute later, and guess what? I've put the batteries in, and they're good batteries. I've put them in the correct way, and I've gone to turn it on. Remember, it says micro USB port broken. So all that should be wrong with it is the micro USB port. But check this out. It doesn't turn on. There's no power here at all. Okay, so is this going to be a simple fix? No, it's not going to be a simple fix. Can I test it? No, I can't test it because I can't turn it on and I can't plug in the USB cable. So now this is the second one out of the box. Oh, and look, hold on. And look, the bumpers don't work either. So on one controller we have a USB port that's missing. We have bumpers that are not working. And it doesn't turn on. Now, maybe I am being cynical, and maybe the seller, maybe these are all genuine, maybe little Johnny was playing this, and these things all happened at once. Or possibly the seller knew exactly what they were doing, and they put all the bits of junk together to resemble working controllers to sell on eBay to a mug like me. Look at that. Brilliant, isn't it? Right, let's take this apart and see what's happening. But I tell you what, there's no way I'm spending 2 days on this controller here. Ah, how annoying. Right, okay, let's get this apart. It's weird, I've never noticed that before, but there's a little bit of, looks like a little bit of wire sticking out of the analog sticks. What is that about? Never noticed that before. Maybe it's on all of them, but doesn't look right. Doesn't look right at all. Don't know what that is. Well, I don't know why the the bumpers weren't working because they're clicking here. Right, I'm wondering whether the light's gone faulty. Rather than it not working, that light, I could be wrong, but it doesn't look to be completely flat to the board. It looks kind of sticking up. See if I can see anything else that's obvious. Right, let's have a look at this USB port. Okay, this is in a lot better condition than the last one. Look, all the pads are still here. So this should be, look at that, this should be replaceable. Let me just look closely, see around the board. So, you know, I said it wasn't turning on because the light wasn't on, but if the light was broken, then that would stop, you know, it would make you think it's not on when really it is. Let's have a look here. Is anything written on this one? Because on my last one it said power off. No, there's nothing written on this board. Well, there's things written there and there's things written there, but there's nothing, you know, nothing obvious. Right, okay, well, oh god, look at the state of that. Oh, that's disgusting. Oh, dearie me. The hell? Absolutely filthy, isn't it? Weird thing is, the rest of it isn't that dirty. Which again makes me think that it's been put together from various different Xboxes rather than various different controllers, because that definitely doesn't marry to that one, does it? How can this be so dirty and this be so clean? Unless of course this is a water damaged one. Be unlikely, because why would it be water, you know, why would it be? Well, I suppose something could spill on it, couldn't it? Well, okay, well I think it warrants changing over the USB port, putting a new one in and seeing what happens. It doesn't look, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but all the pads do seem to be there. Right, let's zoom right in and I'll get my upside down TV set up here and let's see what's happening. Right, okay, this is weird. Now I've got my TV here, it's not inverted, so I've got the TV, you know, doing the image here on the TV. And now when I've set it up, I need to have it the right way round, not the wrong way round. I don't understand what's going on here. Right, so this looks like a world apart from the other one I did. It all looks to be pretty much intact. So let's just double check a few things. Yeah, they're all going to where they should be going. So let's get my hot air station up. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the unleaded solder. I'm going to put on leaded solder, and then I'll try to pop a new USB port in there using hot air. Right, okay, so I've got my iron set up. I'm going to put a bit of flux over this. I'm going to try to remove the old solder to begin with, because this is unleaded solder. And then I'm going to try to tin it all with leaded solder, and then hopefully the new connector, which is here, will go on a little bit easier because it can go on at a slightly lower temperature. Right, so I've got my flux on there, got my soldering iron set to 330 degrees C, and I've got my braid, so let's see now if it's going to come off. Also, I've got a little extractor fan, so it might be a bit noisy. Right, that's come off absolutely lovely. Look at that. Right, so now I'm going to get some leaded solder. Look, that looks perfect, doesn't it? It's come off so nice. Right, let's get some leaded solder now and try to put solder on here. I think that will do. Now we'll get the connector on and turn this off a second. I'm just thinking, I've made it a little bit hard for myself now by actually doing that pad there and there, haven't I? So I think what I'm going to have to do is put the connector on and then add hot air. Really, I'm going to have to put hot air on before to make it melted. So I'm going to have to put hot air on it, then I'm going to put the connector on when it's melted, and then afterwards I'm going to put solder in these little solder things here. In hindsight, I mean, I could just clean it off. The problem is I'm not really going to be able to get to these middle ones to put solder on them. I don't really know why there needs to be solder on there anyway, but there was originally, wasn't there? Okay, we'll try that. If it's wrong, it's wrong. So I've got my air set to, let's put my air to 400 degrees Celsius. And I'm going to have the air set to, I'm only going to have it set to, I think I'm just going to have it set to 2 out of 8 because I don't want to burn any of the other components around here. Now I'm going to angle it this way to make it slightly easier for myself. Just put a lump of blue tack down the bottom of the board to keep it to my mat, just to sort of keep it in place here. Yeah. Well, I'm going to add just a tiny bit more flux, well, quite a bit more flux. Now, I'm not masking anything else off because I'm going to keep well away from, well, I'm pointing the air away from the other components, and luckily there's not really much up near here. You know, they're all quite a little bit lower down, so hopefully I won't blow them off. Right, so I'm going to add the hot air until the solder goes shiny, and then hopefully when I put this on it will melt down onto it. Just put my fan on. That fan is actually working. I can see the fumes getting sucked away into it, which is fantastic. Right, that looks nice and shiny now. Let's go with that. Right, okay, now we're going to turn it over and we're going to put solder in the little holes. Right, that's interesting. Look, let me turn this off. I just went to turn it over and look what came off in my hands. Let's see if I can show you. Look. Look at that, capacitor just popped off somewhere in this corner down here. That was just from turning it. I'm wondering if this is a water damaged board. And maybe because there was no power they tried to change the USB port thinking it was that. I think it's come off this area here. Must have come off there, mustn't it? Right, let's pop that back on before I lose where it goes. Right, let's solder up this top bit now, then I can clean it all up with IPA at the end. Right, okay, I think that went perfectly for me. So let's just see if these are, I don't think I need to go over these with the soldering iron. They all look like they've got a nice bit of solder on them. Right, I'm going to look through my little eye loop. Oh yeah, they're lovely. Right, let me clean it up and then I'll show you. Really happy with how that came out. Right, so if you have a look up there, can you see the pins under here? There you go. Do you know what? That went so well, and at no point did I think I was going to burn anything. That went really smooth, and I think it helps because the board's so narrow, because it doesn't just keep zapping away all the heat. Right, let's pop this back together now, and let's see if we have anything when we connect it up to the laptop. At least now with the USB, I should be able to feel it vibrate if it does connect. Bit of tape over the rumble motors because they keep popping out and you end up breaking the wires if it keeps happening. Right, okay, let's see what's going to happen with this now. So let's plug it into here. See if we have anything. No. No, it didn't vibrate, and it hasn't been recognised up here. Ah, what a shame. And also, what a nasty eBayer. Do you know what I mean? Putting complete junk together. And I know a lot of people say, it serves you right, you're buying faulty stuff. But, you know, there's a difference between buying faulty stuff and buying junk, isn't there? A fault to me is, for example, the USB port is broken because somebody was using it and they tripped over the lead and broke the USB port. Putting things together where you know they don't work and selling them as faulty, to me, is low. It's underhand. I really do believe that, and I know a lot of you feel the same as well. So nasty. And the thing is, somebody will say, oh, we'll leave them bad feedback, but I can't leave them bad feedback. I bought this about a year ago, so you can only leave feedback, I think, for 90 days. So what I'll do now, I mean, that was a perfect job on there. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. Let's swap some boards over and see what the problem is. At least if the front board works where I've done the USB port, then, well, I'll tell you what I could do. I could, if the front board works, I could put it with the last controller that I did, because the last controller had a horribly glued USB port that I know if it drops is going to break. I'm fully confident that that USB port is working. So yeah, there's not really much I can do here, is there? So let's take it apart, swap the boards over, and see if we can find out what is faulty. You know, which board is faulty. Right, okay, so this is my good controller out. I'm going to try the one I've just fixed now on the good board here. So, good board, front that I've just fixed. Let's see if we have anything. No. So 100% this front board here is faulty, because it's not even coming up as a USB. It's not even coming up on Windows 10 as a USB device. So this front board is not working. So now we're going to put the good front board into this back here, and then it will tell me whether the back's working or not. So let's put this to one side. Right, here we go. So, good front board, don't know about the back board. Let's see. No, it doesn't work. So the seller has sent me a faulty front board and a faulty back board again. So I know I've got 4 more to do, but I think we know the way that this is going to go. What a scumbag. Right, okay, and annoying for me as well, because the thing is, like, I don't want every video to be a failure, but how much time do I spend on this? Like, if it was just a front board now, I could go around and I could see where the power's going to. But to have to fault find 2 boards, you know, how many days is that going to take me to do? When probably a professional's already been through it and deemed it unrepairable. Oh, that's so annoying. It's so annoying. It's not about the wasted money. It's the fact that it's a kind of wasted video as well. Is it even worth me doing the other 4 just to say, oh yeah, okay, let's solder in another USB port for it not to work? Sorry, I know it sounds like I'm ranting. It's just I'm kind of like this close to giving up on buying stuff on eBay. But if I don't buy stuff on eBay, then really I don't have trying to fix videos anymore. Well, actually I do. I can buy from other places. And maybe that is the answer, to buy from car boot sales and stuff like that. But at the same time, part of the interest is to see if you do get kind of ripped off on eBay. It's just that it's fine when you get ripped off on one item, but when you get ripped off on a job lot of items, then it's annoying. And right now I don't know whether to even take this any further, because it's one hell of a boring video. But at the same time, do I want an hour-and-a-half video for you guys to watch, and for example maybe 8 hours of footage for me to edit, to have a controller for me to say at the end that I can't fix? What a scumbag. Do you know what? I'm going to have a think about it. Or what I could do is I could just cut this video short and just move straight on to number 3. Give me a few minutes to think. Right, what I'm going to do is I've got the bad front board here and the good front board here. I'm going to go across them both to see if I can see anything obvious. And then, you never know, just in case it is like a shorted capacitor or something like that. So I'm not going to film it, I'm just going to get back to it to show you if I found anything or not. Right, do you know what, I'm glad I didn't go up straight away, because look at this. Zoom in a little bit. So basically, good board, bad board. Now, if you have a look, we've got a capacitor, well, there's numerous capacitors, but we've got one here and one here, that's shorting. So if I go to a ground, such as this one here, listen. There, and there, both sides, yeah? And also this one here. All the others seem okay. So that is C33 and C26. And if I go on to these ones here, no, yes, okay, and this one here, no, and yes. Now, this other board that I tried, which is also faulty, the capacitors are not shorting on this one. So, yeah, so what I'm going to do is, let's get the hot air on them, let's take off this one, and we'll see whether it's the board that's shorted or the capacitors that have shorted. Because if it was the capacitors, I could just change them out for this one here, couldn't I? Right, so that is what we are going to do. So I'm going to add a little bit of flux. And I've got my air set to 400. Let's turn on the fan again. Do you know what, I'm just going to do them one at a time, just in case one capacitor is putting a short on the other one. So now let's try the actual pads. No, so the pads are okay. So it means then, if the pads are okay, it must be the capacitor. Fantastic. Right, okay. Let me just get the capacitor now and see if this is shorting. No, it's not. Hold on. Yes, it is. Listen, let's turn this off. So it's the capacitor that's shorting. Excellent. Well, let's try this one down here. This one might be okay. Yes. Excellent. So let's swap the capacitor over, and then I can clean up the flux here. I'm just going to make sure it's on the top one. I should have made a note of that. C33. Let's swap it over for this one here. There we go. I'm going to put it straight on here now. I'm not going to bother adding leaded solder. It should be fine. There we go, that's on. Wouldn't it be nice if that was it? Oh, do you know what? I'd really enjoy it if that was it. We'll just see what happens now. Excellent. Excellent. Seems to jump around a bit, but that isn't behaving like the other ones, is it? Which is good. Well, let's clean this with IPA. Even if we get one board out of it, it might help me fix other ones, you see. Now with these capacitors, as far as I know, it doesn't matter which way they go on round, but I actually put it on with the same polarity as the other one, but I don't think these are polarity conscious, so I think you can put these on either way round. But because I don't really know what I'm doing, I just made sure when I took it off with the tweezers that I put it on in the same orientation. Right, so let's put this board now on the good back and let's see if we have anything. Okay, so remember now we have the good back. This is from my controller, and the faulty front board. Let's see if we get that little vibrate. Yes, it vibrated. Now, is it going to be recognised? Nothing's come up yet. Make sure that is all in. No, so nothing's come up. Let's try it again. Well, we've definitely got something that we didn't have before. Let me get out of this and put it back. Go back into it again. But it's still not being recognised as a USB. There we go, look, it's recognised it there now when I put pressure on that there. So maybe it's my dodgy USB port, which I thought looked perfect. Yeah, I can see one of the pins hasn't stuck, and by me doing, I've whacked it across now and it's bent over. Let me get a little needle to get it back. Near the second pin along hasn't stuck, that didn't stick. Okay, do you know what it probably is? Because I put mounds of solder on there, it probably is probably forcing the whole sort of port up rather than going down. But what I'm going to do is I don't really want to put the hot air on it because I don't want to melt the black plastic on the inside. I am just going to get the soldering iron and I'm just going to put a bit of flux in there, and I'm hoping the solder will stick because there was definitely enough solder on the pads. It's interesting though that we still had the faulty capacitor because these pins just hadn't stuck, they weren't shorting together, so that wouldn't have affected anything. So we still had the fault on the capacitor regardless. Which I suppose is what the original deceiver, the seller, has done, because he's removed the ports, and so if it still doesn't work, it means there's nothing that can be shorting in here. Because even with this port removed, it would still work as a wireless controller. So obviously the reason that this board wasn't working was because of this capacitor here. So now, if I can fix the USB ports, hopefully this board itself might be okay, and then we can just have a look at the backboard, which will probably be unfixable, but at least we will have one good board out of it. Bit weird how this capacitor here just fell off in my hands though. Right, okay. Right, I think that's stuck. So let's give it a clean. Let's see if it makes a connection this time. Right, let's see what it does now. Excellent. Oh wow, oh it's had a mod. Look at that. Oh, it makes it all worthwhile now. It's got a blue light on it. Look at that. Interesting. Right, okay, can you see there it connected straight away. So let's go to new interface and let's try a few things. So oh sorry, start testing. Got me worried there. Right, okay. Right analogs, right trigger, yes. Left trigger, yes. Analog stick, yes. That's working. D-pad's working, yes, yes. Click in, and bumpers. Excellent, let's try this one. There we go, yeah. So now that front board appears to be working okay. Let's just try vibration. Yeah, there we go. You can see they're spinning round, and also I can feel that the impulse triggers are working as well. Brilliant. Okay, right. You know, I know most people will be like, oh well, your controller still doesn't work, but I'm pleased now that we've got a working board, a working front board. So now I can use my energy to work on this back one here just to see what's wrong with it. So now, just in case it is some sort of incompatibility between the boards, I'm going to put this working front board now back onto this backboard just to see if we have anything. I'm almost certain we don't, because remember, this is my good backboard that's on here. So let's swap this over. Nothing. So there's definitely an issue with that backboard. So now what I'm going to do again is I'm just going to be comparing them with this one here. So I know now I'm happy with the front boards. I'm going to be comparing the backboards to see if I can see anything, just like I did with the front boards. Again, there's no point in filming it because I can't teach you anything because I don't know what I'm doing. All I'm doing is just going to go across the different bits bit by bit to see, for example, if I can see any capacitors that have shorted, to see if maybe some of the grounds are showing up on here that are not showing up on here when it comes to the maybe this one's got an extra ground on, for example, the chip, in which case then the chip might be failed. That's all I'm doing. So I'll get back to this shortly. Okay, so I've been comparing between the two and I have found some differences. So this here is the bad one, the one with the, remember where I taped up the rumble motors, and this is the good one. Now if you have a look, there's various different test points around the place. So I've been testing all the capacitors and stuff on both sides to see if I can see anything different. which I can't. But what I have noticed is there is 2 bits of glue gun here and here. That's not on this one. Could be from the factory, I don't know. As well as that, there's a horrible glue gun sticking out of these things here. Now, I'm not going to pull them because maybe these have been repaired and maybe they're working. But if you look there, you can see it's kind of it's coming out. It's like somebody's poured glue in there or something. So I'm not 100% sure what's happening there. And that's not on these ones here. So I knew that it didn't look like it was going to be from the factory with those things sticking out. So obviously these have definitely been bodged up, let's say, in the past. Right. But you know, if it works, it works. But that's not my problem at the moment. The problem is that this board's completely dead. So what I've done is I've gone across these pins here because this is how the board gets power from the USB board. And they're all connecting to the actual pads down the bottom, so I don't think there's any issue. I mean, yes, maybe it could be an issue with the fact that they might not be making a contact when the male goes into it, because remember we've got pins on this side, so we've got male here and female here, but they all look to be okay. But there's definitely a connection between here and here. But I've been going across the test points and I have noticed 2 things that are different. So if we go across test point 27, there's just a tiny little one here called 27. And if I go, let me zoom in more. Right, so if I go across from a ground to 27, it shorts. Yeah? And yet if I do exactly the same on this one, and these boards are the same, they look to be exactly the same age and everything. In fact, it says there 2013, 2013. So if I go across this one here, can you see it's not shorting? Yep, so that's different. And also there's a test point 30 over here, where if I go across on the good board, it's, hold on, is it 30? 1 second now. There you go, it's shorting. Yeah. And when I go across this board here on test point 30, it's not shorting. So that's 2 different things I found. But saying that this wire has snapped off, maybe that's why that one's not shorting. Actually, that could well be why. Let's because that's very close to that motor there. Let's see if I can try to just touch that with my thumb. Do you know what? Let me solder it up, because it's only going to take a few seconds. That might be why that one is, that could be why that one's different. It probably is actually, because it's going to be shorting through the motor, isn't it? Yeah, I bet you that's why. But definitely over here, this one is showing a short, and I'm not sure why. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to trace to see where that goes to see why it's different than this one here. Just going to solder up this one, and then we'll have a little look and see if this one's still there, not shorting. Have a look now. Excellent. Okay, so that's doing the same as that one now. Good. Okay, so that was just purely because of the wire wasn't shorting when it was going through the motor. So now I have to find out why this one over here is shorting and this one isn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a very close look at it and see if I can see where the traces are going to. Right, okay, looking closely at it, it looks like the little test point is going down into this one here where the grey wire soldered to. Now if you have a look at this one, this controller up here hasn't been touched because this is my one, and I know it works, and I know I hadn't ever taken it apart before, apart from on the last video. And that grey wire looks lovely with a nice little small solder ball. Right here it looks a mess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unsolder both this grey and black wire and then see if it's still short in there. But I can't see how a faulty trigger would knock the whole board out, but I don't know. Okay, I've just cleaned it up a little bit. Now let's test it. No, so it's not shorting anymore. So basically that was just shorting through the motor, which makes me think it should work. Let me just try this side here, because this, it looks like there's a test point above this motor as well. Maybe that doesn't go to it though. Yeah, I think it does. See, I suppose if you're Microsoft, you know exactly what each of these test points do. Right, so that's shorting. Maybe my controller up here is faulty. Maybe one of the impulse triggers don't work. Right. Interesting. I wonder whether they should be shorting because they're going up to a motor. I wonder whether one of my triggers up here is faulty. Right, okay, well, let me just quickly put it back together just to see if it does anything. But I'm thinking now that this is the faulty one when it comes to that, because it should be shorting when it goes through the motor. Let's just double check that. Yep. Let me check here now. No. So, could be another fix-it video. Right, so that's shorting on that side, but the motor this side is not shorting. So that says to me that that rumble up there is not working. Right, but that doesn't bode well for this one here, because basically there's no point in me even putting that back together. I might as well just solder these back onto where they should be, because they should be connected, you see. That's a shame. Right, well, apart from that, I didn't find any differences between them. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean it all with IPA, just in case there's a bad connection somewhere. I mean, it could be one of these kind of little chips here. I don't know if they're MOSFETs or what they're called, but I mean, all I've done is check to see that, for example, if there's an earth on that one, that there's an earth on this one. But just because there's an earth pad, it doesn't mean the actual chip itself is working. I suppose really what I should be doing is checking for different voltages throughout it. I wonder, is there a way I could do the voltage thing? Yeah, I suppose there is. I could use my my actual bench supply, couldn't I? Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll connect it up and measure for voltage in different places. I don't really want to give up on this one that easy. I kind of want a success out of it. Right, okay, they look a little bit neater now anyway. Right, so taking a positive from it is the fact that I now know that the impulse one on this one is not working properly. Good. Right, okay, I am going to put it back together, and I am then going to put voltage into this. I'm going to put 3 volts because that's how these batteries are. Let me just double check that out. So they're connected together there. Minus and plus. Yeah, so it's 3 volts going through it, isn't it? Because it's in series. So it's the same as it basically doing that, there to there. So I'm going to put 3 volts into these prongs here. Right, so I'm going to concentrate to begin with on the connectors. See, if these connectors here were faulty, they wouldn't be allowing power into this board. Actually, what would be the clever thing to do is put voltage into here and measure which pins have voltage on them, and then I'll be able to hopefully trace it from the female part of it. Okay, sorry for the upside down shot, but that is the bench power supply. I'm just going to put it to 3 volts. There we go. And now you see, hopefully at the end of the leads, I will have 3 volts. I'll just measure that. There you go, 3 volts, yeah? So now I can put that straight onto the leads. Let me just get the right one. So we're going to be on here. So we've got minus, this is going to be plus here, and minus there. So it's plus down the bottom here. Oh, we had power there for a second. I've seen the blue light come on. I don't know, I've forgotten already which one was what. So it's plus down the bottom. Look, when I press it, the blue light comes on. Can you see that? It's not staying on. Right, so it's getting some kind of power, but maybe that's got nothing to do with this board here. Maybe if I unplug this board, it will also still have power. Let's try that now. No, it doesn't. Not lighting up now. Alright, well, first things first, let me go across these pins here just to see which ones are the power ones. Right, okay, it all seems to lead to under this board, and I'm really curious about what's under here anyway, because in my last video I thought it was like a ball grid array, but apparently it's not. These are the actual contacts here to get this board to this board, so under here there's going to be other traces as well. So what happens is, from here, it goes up to a via, into underneath here somewhere. I'm not sure if it goes off in any other direction, but it definitely comes up to here, goes across this resistor here and to the pin on one of these terminals here. Now these little terminals are for when you use the plug and play kits, the little rechargeable battery that you buy from Microsoft. So basically you can put your own rechargeable batteries in, but then you're going to have to charge them via your own charger. If you buy the plug and play kit, you can charge them via the USB ports, so that goes across here. Now from here it also goes, from this resistor, it also goes up to a little via through here, and then from this side it just travels down this side here and then goes through the board again to somewhere under here. So it seems like stuff is going on under here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unsolder these wires here. I'm going to try to remove this board. I will probably break the board in the process, but I'm really curious about what's underneath there. And also I'm kind of running out of options now. I mean, I'm following a 3-volt power line, but that might be purely for charging up this battery connector. That might not be to actually give power to the controller itself. So I might be kind of chasing something that's not relevant. But the thing is, just going between here and here, I'm not really having much luck. So I am going to undersolder this just to see what's underneath here, just in case it might become obvious. There might be damage on the board under here, liquid damage or something like that, that I can't see, because the rest of this board looks absolutely perfect. So that's what I'm going to work on. Okay, so it is just a board on a board. Somebody mentioned in the comments that it might that they think it's called a daughter board because it's like on the motherboard. I don't know whether that's right or not. Right, so unfortunately the traces underneath look absolutely perfect. Be interesting to see if it would work without this. Maybe this is just purely for the Wi-Fi. Somebody did say that that was the Wi-Fi card. One thing I have noticed, I noticed this earlier but I kind of forgot about it, is if you look at the pins on this connector here, a couple of them look a little bit, they don't look very nice. These middle few look like they're slightly corroded. I hope there's no corrosion under that, but what I did is, I did just go between the pins here and they were still making a contact. But I think I will just tap it with the soldering iron, just to make sure. And plug it in. Yeah, and it lights up. Right, so it lights up, but it's not being recognised. Let me try to just put this on now, not without any solder or anything. Let's just see if any of them make a contact. No. Right, okay, let's put on the power supply. No, it's sort of starting to run out of options now. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure voltage now between the two and see if I can find anything. Again, if I find anything, I'll get back to the video. Right, okay, I think I might have been wasting my time. I tell you why, I wasn't turning it on, was I? So basically when I go across here, it's only going to work when I press the Xbox button at the top. And because it's not synced up to anything, it loses sync again after about 30 seconds or so. Not sync, but I mean it just turns itself off again after 30 seconds. So I don't know if I'm really proving anything. I'm not sure if I'm proving anything by checking for voltage around the place. Right, do you know what I am going to do though? I am going to, because I don't think these analog sticks are original, I mean something's definitely happened to the middle of them. So the traces are definitely going under here and then I lose it after that. So I'm going to unsolder this analog stick. See if there's anything under there. Oh, annoyingly everything looks absolutely perfect. I can't see anything wrong under there whatsoever. Right, okay, I can't find out what's wrong with this, and one of the major problems is now the fact that I'm only going to be able to test for voltages when it's on, and it doesn't turn on to let me check for voltages, so I'm not really sure what to do. Do you know what? I think for the purpose, I know this is going to sound absolute madness because I've got a working controller here and the chances are I'm probably going to break them both by doing this. But I think I am going to, like I said, it's madness, I know. I think I'm going to swap the chips over because I really want to know what's wrong with this now. I want to know what's wrong with it more than the cost of an Xbox controller, and because I'm doing more of these, the more I get to know about them, the more chance I'll have of fixing the other ones. So for example now, if this is the wireless card, I don't know if it is or not, but if it is, I know now that this can be replaced relatively easily, I think. So you know the one that I did before, there'd be a chance of fixing that then because it didn't work wirelessly, but if I can just replace it with this, then it will work. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this chip here and I'm going to remove the chip from my working one and I'm going to swap them over. And I'm going to try and swap them over and I'm going to see if it fixes it or not. And then if it doesn't, I mean it could just be it could be one of these tiny little, you know, whatever, transistors or MOSFETs or something. It really could be anything. But there's not that much on here. And I don't think it's a problem with the traces on the board because they all look to be okay. So I know a lot of people are going to be like, you're an idiot for doing that. But for me, I think it's worth it because I really want to know what's wrong with it. So I'm going to make a note of where all these wires go and then I'm going to take this board out. Right, let that dry up and then I'll put it back in the board, connect it up to the laptop and see if anything happens. Right, here we go. Remember this is just a board, there's no rumble motors or anything attached to this. Let's see what it does now. And I haven't got the wireless board in either. Okay, the blue light's on, but it's still not... Blue light was always on there, wasn't it? Right, it's not being recognised up here. Okay, so I wonder, do you have to have the wireless board attached? But you don't, you know. That's not going to make a contact anyway. Right. Right, so it's still not showing anything at all. Okay, I'm going to have a little play around with this for a while and see if I discover anything. Okay, desperate times calls for desperate measures. I've changed the chip, I've changed over the Wi-Fi board, and it's still not working. So now I'm going to go through each component, not the small little resistors and capacitors. I really can't see how a faulty one of them would knock out the, especially not the small ones, would knock out the whole thing. Saying that, the other capacitor did knock out the front board, but at least that was testing faulty. So now I'm going to go across, I'm going to change over every single MOSFET, transistor, whatever they are, I'm not too sure, but I'm going to change them over between this board and the other board. Okay, I have changed absolutely everything over. Well, not absolutely, there's still loads of resistors and capacitors, but I've changed over everything that looks like it may be important. This connector here, because that one looked a bit iffy, I've changed over all these. I don't know if they're MOSFETs or transistors, I'm not too sure, but all the kind of tiny little ICs around the place I've changed over, and I've changed over the main big chip, and I've changed over the Wi-Fi board. So there's not really much else I can do because I can't change over every single resistor and capacitor on the board. Now let's see, is this connector going to work now? Yes, it is. Right, okay, let's plug it in and let's see what's going to happen. Here we go. Lights on. But it's still not being recognised. Right, okay. Unfortunately, it is time to give up. Let's just try to press this little button here, see if it makes any difference. No, do you know, I'd love to know what's wrong with that backboard. There's nothing really left to change. It must be just, there must be a faulty capacitor or faulty resistor or something on it. Unless it's one of the tracks going somewhere. I really don't know. Unless, of course, when I've changed something over, I haven't done something properly. Let me just quickly try going straight onto the terminals rather than the USB and see if that gives us any different reading. Right, let's see now. No, it's only giving me a very faint glow. No, that's not right. So, what an absolute failure. Okay, so I've got an idea. Now, remember the first controller that I did was only a wired USB because it was a problem with wireless. So, what I've done now is, that's this board here with the green UV mask on. I've put the Wi-Fi chip board onto this one here. Let's see if we can get a working controller out of number 1 by using the parts from number 2. Right, okay, so it's still syncing up, so now let me put this back together and connect it up to the Xbox and see what happens. Interesting, right, I've just been putting the controller back together and I've been using the boards, the front board with the blue lights. And remember I said that the bumper buttons don't work properly. Remember I said I pressed them and they didn't go down? Well look, there's a different design on different boards. This is from my controller with the bumper buttons, and look what happens when you press the bumper buttons. This little lever clicks up like this to hit it. Now have a look at this board here. Can you see that these ones are facing up? So when these are jammed in here, obviously they don't work because they're not clicking the button, because it's a different design. And guess what case the seller put on this one here? They put the upward facing buttons, let me just show you. The upward facing buttons with these right triggers. So basically this was in here like this. Remember I said that they didn't press down? Well, that's the reason they don't press down, because look, how can they press the button there? They're wedged in there. So 100%, there's absolutely no doubt, there's proofs there that these are not original controllers. They've been put together from broken up controllers. Couldn't even bother to put the right bumpers in. So yeah, what am I going to do now? I am going to have to, I don't know. Right, luckily in the box of spares I had one. Now can you see these are a complete different design? They're moulded all in one piece rather than 3 separate pieces. Now I'm not sure if they're actually going to fit this older type or not. They might not, let's see. No. No, they're not going to fit, so I'm going to have to get a different front plate and everything. I'm wondering if it's worth my while. It's a shame because I kind of wanted to see what it was like with the blue light. Right, okay, I'll spend a little bit longer at it and see if I can work out what's happening. Right, luckily I managed to find the spare parts like the sync button and stuff for this top. So you can listen now. Right, okay, so as far as a wired controller is concerned, it is working, and now at least I have the proper USB port at the top. So if you have a look here, you can see all the buttons are lighting up. Right trigger, left trigger, analog stick, click in, analog stick, D-pad. Yeah, there we go. Right, let's connect it to the Xbox and let's see if it works wirelessly or not. Right, okay, let's see now if it's going to sync up this time that I've changed the wireless board. So let's turn it on. Lovely blue colour, I do like that. Now let's hit the sync button here. And hit the sync button here. See what it's going to do. Is it going to sync? No, of course it is. It is. It's synced. I was about to say it hasn't. Yes. Yes. Oh, brilliant. Okay. Excellent. Right, and let's just see if it's working with the wired. With the wire in it. Let's say now if you don't want to use the batteries. So let's take the batteries out of it. Thought that wasn't going to sync there. So that is the wireless card then. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, back to wireless again. Excellent. Right, well that is good. Now, so what we got here is we've got the front board from the second repair and we've got the back board from the first repair. But at least now I've got a proper USB port and I've got a nice blue button which I like, and it's all, this now I am confident is going to be a good working controller. But it's a bit like Trigger's broom. Now I'm not sure if any of my American viewers has ever watched Only Fools and Horses, but Trigger was a guy who was a road sweeper for the council, and basically he said that he had his broom for however many years, I can't remember, 25 years or something, and then he said, yeah, I've only changed the handle 5 times and the head 6 times. In other words, it's not the same broom anymore. Kind of similar to this here. So yes, I've got the front board from the second one and I've got the back board from the first one, but all this top one here is a complete, and the shell as well. So the shell and this top one here is from that big box of spares I got. So I'm really not doing too well on this Joblot so far. And as well as that, I've completely ruined my working controller. So right now, I've still only got one controller, and I started before doing any of the fix-it on this Joblot on one controller. So I'm no better off at all. Possibly I could try to solder everything back onto my working controller again, but realistically now, I think it's unlikely because I've taken so much off it. But at least now, I've got a controller that's working good, because half an hour ago I was down one controller, and at least now this is working okay. So that is it for this video. It was another failure, but at least I got the front board working. Really, it's a complete uphill battle. You've seen that this one was definitely made up of junk parts, because the bumpers weren't even the correct one. So basically the shell was not the correct one for the front board here. So you can tell that the seller really doesn't care. Really, not even trying to cover it up at all. So yeah, slightly annoying, but still going to be interesting for the third, fourth, fifth and sixth one to see what lies in store for those other ones. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe for more trying to fix videos. Take care, bye now.